Minister, over to you.
No, you may be seated. Thank you very much, Doctor. You may be seated. Thank you very much. It's a conference. We are told we have moved from the year of 1994, right? So we may also check if the standing ovation is still necessary for a minister. Maybe reserve it for a president. Don't say you heard that from me. Program Director, thank you very much. Let me appreciate the presence of the Chair of the Board from GMI, as well as the Executive Director, who are my fellow panel members as well. Representative from all our SADC member states, our Secretariat, and our partners from international bodies, many who are here, some I have met already, UNESCO, WaterAid, and many others. I know GIZ is here as well, that assist in the fight and the development of ensuring that we become better in how we manage and develop our underground water. The delegates who came from their countries, from their SADC member states, but also from our river basin organizations that have been able to make it to this conference, you're all well appreciated. Your Excellencies who are coming from other countries as well, ambassadors and high commissioners who have made it possible for us to convene and converge in this fashion. Thank you very much for all the support that you have given to us as well as part of our G20 partners, and to make sure this sideline event of the G20 is successful. I would have not executed my task very well on behalf of Minister Majodina if I also don't recognize the presence of our distinguished guests from the academia, from research, from innovators, from professionals, young and old, who have made it not only into this gathering, but who have done quite a lot of detailed work of ensuring that the frameworks and the policies that sit today on a table that we are going to ponder on, adopt, and ultimately implement are brought into the table. I welcome you all, though you have already been welcomed by the Chair of the Board of GMI. Thank you very much for arriving here on behalf of the Government of South Africa and the entire SADC region. This is a very important gathering, and your presence does affirm collectively that we have a resolve and we're speaking in one voice of confronting the defining challenges of our era. And what is our era? Is ensuring that our groundwater is secured, they are sustainable, but shared in an equitable manner and managed properly, because we are in an ever-changing and rapidly changing environment climatically, which just makes life very more unpredictable on a day-to-day. My mama is 85 years old. She's so blessed to have lived that long. She says today's weather is so, she doesn't understand the South African weather. She understood it that there's spring, but now you find winter and spring. And and you do understand that there's quite a bit of changes. But I do think informing security on how our water needs to look like, we also need to embark mainly on education, particularly conservation, of understanding that water is a resource, but it's a resource that can really be wiped off. And you will try to sustain what you have, but a good use of water needs to we need to be educated about it. We also need to make sure that there's capacity on the themes that we have developed that make sure that, yes, this is urgent, is visionary. We need to invest in the groundwater for climatic action, but some of what we do is have education have a long way of changing the thinking, the mindset, and also the development of how we can save a drop for the next day. So across Southern Africa, the manifestation of climate change are no longer abstract projections, but lived realities. Prolonged and intensifying droughts, erratic rainfall patterns, devastating floods and extreme weather events. It's what we mark on a day-to-day basis. So coupled with this education we're talking about, we need to be able to be alive to our early warning systems, but also our mitigating measures on how do we build better, stronger in terms of infrastructure. So where you have invested, you don't go to reinvest again. Well, if it is possible, sometimes nature just wipes off everything that you thought you would have done right a day before the floods come. So these events do undermine our economic development, they strain our environmental systems, but they also threaten the dignity and the well-being of millions of our people. What do the learnings that we have on the face of either any of the disaster? It has a negative impact mostly on women, vulnerable children in the main. Well, I say to my brother, it does not mean it won't affect you, but we do underline that the face of poverty is written on women's faces more than anything else. So groundwater, once regarded as hidden, maybe peripheral, has now proven to be one of the most reliable buffers in a climate stress world. Yet it remains undervalued, undermanaged, underinvested across much in our region. And I think us coming here this morning is about changing that situation for better management and for better care of our underground water. This conference, therefore, for us to realize that we must take it as a critical platform to elevate groundwater as a strategic asset for climate resilience, socio-economic development, our ecosystem stability. I commend the GMI, Madam, and its partners, of course, for convening this assembly of global and regional expertise to build on the foundation laid by the Sustainable Groundwater Management Program, particularly Phase 2, which focused, if we were to refresh ourselves, on capacity building. And I've touched a little bit on what would it mean beyond what we would have dealt with earlier on. Knowledge generation and advocacy. We need to strengthen the resilience and inclusive groundwater governance. I pray for a day where municipalities could also be part of the discussion in the room for proper management of groundwater. Because if we're talking about seepages either into rivers, into groundwater, you need a partner called a local municipality to be part of what you are discussing, planning, and make sure that they are part of responding to the issues that you will be dealing with. So if we fail to do that and bring them into the room, yes, we will resolve, but we'll be missing an important partner in ensuring that whatever we've resolved in is also implemented. So we need this conference to ensure that it inspires on our policy influence, our institutional strengthening, and practical implementation across SADC member states. Our South African National Water Resource Strategy 3 was finalized in 2023, and it places underground or groundwater at the heart of equity, sustainability, and climate resilience. It recognizes that groundwater is no longer an optional supplement, and therefore it needs dedicated investment, but it must become a central pillar of our national and regional water security. Those of us who come in the rural areas will know that the main provision of water in rural areas comes from groundwater. The pillars of this strategy then emphasizes that we need to strengthen our groundwater governance, we need to invest, and Madam Chair did sit on investment in terms of data and monitoring, how important they are. We need to protect our aquifers and our recharge zones. We need to integrate water resource planning involving everybody in the room. We need to build technical and social capacity, but we also need to make sure that we are adaptable to climate and we are forever prepared for the changes. But importantly, we need the step that we are engaging on this morning, which is the collaboration beyond the boundaries of who we are in a country, but into the region and, of course, the entire SADC. If our strategic direction is correct and has already begun, we need to make sure our member states as well are at that level or they are even better than us, so that we could be able to collaborate and learn from one another to ensure that the sustainability across all the groundwater scheme, and make sure that we are in the underdeserved and served communities, placing them through development. We have got conditional grants and other national interventions which assist particularly in rural areas for the rollout of the bulk infrastructure for surface water. But we need also the same collaboration in making sure that groundwater is an important measure. We are providing much for the needed relief, expanded water access. It's bringing us closer into fulfilling the promise of SDG 6. But we need to be realistic as well, that the realities of our water scarce environment in the country still dictates more collaboration for us with other partners to make sure that we provide what we term water is life for every South African to be able to access that. How do we collaborate with our continent and GMI? We appreciate the support that we have been getting, particularly during phase 1 and 2 of the program. And the contributions amongst many had been the training of our departmental officials, the development of hydrogeological maps which were provided with, our enhanced data systems, as the groundwater information portal, because you need to have such portals and understanding of where your aquifers are. If you don't know, you then can plan better, and we received that support. But the establishment of the baseline groundwater monitoring network in the Upper Vaal was the assistance that GMI gave, and also the sub-grant projects that deepened our hydrological knowledge and supported planning at local levels. At the briefing, I was actually informed that 2 of those projects are almost about to conclude, and this is the support that GMI has given us. So in establishing this focal group in April 2024, I encourage all stakeholders to help operationalize the structure, ensure that it becomes vibrant and an influential mechanism for advancing sustainable groundwater and management in South Africa. Minister Majodina, as part of the declaration that will be the declaration of the G20, have made already submissions into the declaration in relation to water, but particularly groundwater, as part of what we hope could be the benefits and the learnings and the benefit of the G20 itself coming out of one of the member countries, which is South Africa, into SADC. And I hope we will build into that and make sure that all our efforts do come into some fruition, even if we don't drink the water ourselves, but providing sustainably for those who come before us. It may be important also that we align our continental initiatives at the level of who we are in SADC and take decisive and cohesive steps in ensuring that we work jointly and together. And ministers met in September here in South Africa and in Dakar, Senegal, and approved a strategic program of groundwater for security and resilience in Africa for 2026 to 2023. And that program, Madam Chair, is what was then summarized in the main to be part of what our declaration needs to look like as an input into the G20 declaration. But in the main, we are saying, as they said, and I quote, groundwater is used sustainably and equitably, increasing water, food security, resilience, and improved livelihoods. That's what the ministers agreed upon this September in Dakar, and I closed quote. I think we need to really ask ourselves, with so much arable land and access to water, how come does Africa still talk about food security? How come do we still have stunted children out of poverty and hunger? I think we need this honest discussion, may not be for today. And what are we going to do ourselves to use the reserves and whatever that we have from land, from mineral in high and large quantities, but we still can't just do the basic. Not being rich, anything else, but just being alive and feed our children. I think it's a more call for all of us to get into this action that they've agreed upon. There is a strong relationship between water and food security. They go hand in hand. And if you maximize them, you develop your nation. So we need to harmonize this policy. We need to strengthen our institutions and also enhance the mandatory transboundary aquifers across the continent. It is essential that SADC Groundwater Program aligns with this continental vision, ensuring coherence, synergy, and shared impact. If we talk of blended financing, for example, we can't talk about it in a compartmentalized manner. You need to be aligned. You need to realize that an aquifer could be outside the boundary of South Africa. It could be in Lesotho, and it will fit into your val. It could be in Zimbabwe, and it will fit into your Zambezi, into Limpopo River, down into South Africa. If you do not have that comprehension and understanding, then we will be going individually and singularly as countries, hoping to be finding financing and trying to put a boundary or a border into a natural resource, a river, something which will go beyond what we think it should be. So I think this conference, amongst other things, should not be remembered mainly as a dialogue, but it's for decisions and commitments. If we want to call on the declaration to include us, we need to go into that room on Friday and be convincing enough that at the commencement of the main G20, we believe that water is something that we need to talk about, bring it on the table, particularly sustainable water. But key of those, we thought data monitoring and research is important, and you have spoken about it as my fellow panelist member. Governance and regional cooperation is important. Innovation and technology is important. Human capital development is important. Community knowledge and participation, social facilitation are important. Empowering your citizens with the information and tools on how to manage the water or groundwater and sustainably at the local level. So let's turn knowledge into action, research into implementation, and commitments into measurable progress. That is our view and our thought towards the declaration. We hope we are spot on, but we are informed by the policy that we have worked on in the previous 3 terms of this conference before this one, and we do believe that we are representing you well. In conclusion, Program Director, SADC region is not short of expertise. I know that for sure. We're not short of innovation. We're not short of determination. We have strength in partnership, and we've showcased this before, and we can renew our ambition because it is there and supported by our government, developmental partners, and our scientific community. We can unlock all the potential that is full of our groundwater as a cornerstone for climate resilience. Thank you very much for affording me this opportunity. I wish you well in your deliberations. Thank you.